All those in favor? Are there any additions or subtractions from the agenda? Seeing none, we're good. We have no, oh, vote? Didn't we vote? Okay, all those in favor? Sorry. I thought we did too, but we're good. Do we have someone from GASA here today? Please join us.
There we go. I was like, it's not showing yet. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm Kelly Latman. I am the principal at Long Ridge. I am going to represent some elementary schools, and I just wanted to say that a few of our elementary schools have just given some examples of areas that we are focused on reading development for all of our students, and that we're ensuring that we are teaching skills and strategies that support reading at and above grade level. And we're really trying to find creative ways for students to apply those skills. So I just want to give you a few examples from our schools. I'll start with Long Ridge. We are really working to build that love of literacy in and out of the classroom. So not just in the classroom when they're practicing their skills, but really taking that home with them. And so over this past break, we participated in a winter literacy bingo where kids are able to practice those skills at home with their families and just show off some of those reading skills at home. And so today we had hundreds of bingo boards come back to the building, which was just so exciting. And we partnered with community schools, and so kids got a little prize for bringing it back. And then we are going to, at the end of the week, we're going to draw, and a lucky family will win a gift card courtesy of community schools. So for Pine Brook, they are talking about how reading is impacted by experiences. So they've been exploring the research that shows that the correlation between experiences that students have and their ability to connect with vocabulary in their reading. So they've had some really cool experiences that kids have been able to participate in. Experience Club that's happened during the day, and it's database, and I just love that picture of them getting hands-on and getting into it and seeing those smiles on those faces. And then they've had those experience days. So on October 31st they had their first one, and then there are more planned to come in the spring. So I'm hoping that maybe they'll invite some more people to come in and see some of those great experiences. English Village, there is a very strong commitment and dedication to literacy. So the implementation of the ARC core is happening in all of their kindergarten levels, and it's happening in every single classroom and with fidelity. And with that, they're having a really strong performance growth in IRLA. So almost 68% of the students are on target for their reading level, and right now they're at a 0.43 years of growth. And so at this point, they should be at a 0.4, so just above where they should be. Great job, English Village. And then lastly, I just want to talk about Patty Hill, where they're still practicing their monthly goals, so their WIGs, and it's really on their iReady reading lessons. And so they have a school-wide tracker that everyone can see and be part of, and talking about the characters in their the books that they're reading. And they met their November goal, and so they were celebrated that by having students and staff dress like their favorite book characters. So you can see some cute little Babysitter Club and Piggy and Elephant. So great. So those are just a few examples I wanted to share with you and how we're connecting literacy in and out of the classrooms.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have anybody here from AgCept? Gus? Teamsters? Okay, that gets us to Residents Forum. Reminding there's a time limit. Your number will be up on the board or on your screen. And we'll start with Nancy, please.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I know you guys are trying to work with us, and thank you for hearing us and not ignoring us. I am requesting that the board keep our normal buses and bus schedules as they are now, in effect until the kids are done with school, with the school year. The last day of school is June 5th. I'm asking this because I found out that the amendments that we will receive in the upcoming letter by January 12th will basically say those families who are under 15 miles will still receive regular busing, but those families who are over 15 miles will not, unless they can drive their kids to one of the families' homes who are under 15 miles. Please correct me if I am wrong. I feel like this whole thing is getting confusing and becoming sort of a debacle when we didn't have any issues at all with our regular busing through Ontario. The stress on the families and the children is unfair. We pay a lot in school taxes, and we should be able to use our tax money to provide busing, whether we are under 15 miles or over 15 miles. So if the new procedures are going to take effect on February 26th, then why can't we just keep our normal bus routes until June 5th, at least? We are only 3 months away from that date, from having the kids being done for the summer. Then that will give us the entire summer to figure things out for those families who are over the 15-mile radius. I will be praying for Greece and the issues you are having, and praying that you will still provide us busing, especially until the kids are done with school for the summer. All I can say now is God is good and he will help us out.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Mary?
This is part 2 of the comments I made last month. And that was about a program at Stony Brook in the late 60s and early 70s where they did committee grading with 4 course assignments with freshman composition. The results were amazing. Even some of the seasoned veterans who never taught a lower level class became involved, and the entire college saw an improvement in their writing. After I attended this, I was anxious to come back and present it to my department. Nothing, except a few rolled eyes. Then the complaints rolled in, too much work, we have academic freedom, this violates that. It wasn't until years later that the state began using rubrics for grading for preliminary competency tests. What should have happened to that program at Stony Brook? It should have been replicated at every college in New York State. Educators and teacher preparation programs should have incorporated the same thing into preparing English teachers, and it should have been done in all high schools. Years later, in the 90s, I was writing resource teacher at a K-8 building. The best 8th grade students were allowed to take a Regents level biology class for high school credit and Regents credit. The teacher asked me to correct with her because I was the only one with experience with Regents regulations. I was surprised that the passing grade was 55, and teachers were provided with an adjusted table. I was shocked when she shared that the non-multiple choice questions, students would get half credit if they restated the question, providing no information of their own. I asked her how much of the course a student would need to pass that exam. She said maybe 25%.
Thank you, Mary. I'm sorry, we'll have to go to part 3.
It's okay, part 3 in February.
Thank you. Jordan?
Good evening. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday and New Year. I'd like to follow up on a request I had made to this board back in September and then October of 2023 regarding having a town hall to go over citizen feedback and ask about questions on policies and procedures voted on by this very body. Since no one had reached out to me, I thought I would take the proactive steps and approach myself to facilitate and host my own town halls for the Greece Central School District residents and parents to attend. We will be meeting at the Charlotte Library at Lake and Britton on the following Saturday mornings, January 27th, February 24th, March 16th, and April 27th from 10:15 to 11:45 a.m. With that said, I'd like to extend my warmest invite to any of you in this body who wish to join us for a productive discussion about district policies, practices, and hearing resident feedback one-on-one. The goal here is to come up with solutions that we can all agree on and come back to this very body and take serious action that's better together. Thank you.
Jordan, will you make that public or email it to us, those dates?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Herbert?
Good evening, Greece District leadership and board members. My name is Herb Parker. I'm a lifelong resident of our town in Arcadia, graduate, as is our daughter. We currently have a grandson at Arcadia Middle. Last year, I concluded 24 years of service at the Greece Christian School. Final fast family fun fact, in 1928, my wife's grandfather, Raymond Johnson, bought and drove the first Greece Central School bus and was a district driver for 2 years. So we go back away. So in 4 years, honor the 100th year for Transportation Department, right? Okay, so my reason for coming on December 4th, we received a letter from Greece Central saying that effective January 28th, transportation would no longer be provided for the 2 international students my wife and I hosted in our home. Upon inquiry, I was told the decision was determined by a bus driver staffing shortage. My request to district leadership today is just twofold. First, please honor the 23-24 bus pass contract made in August to Greece families hosting an international student to provide busing for the final 81 days of this school year. And finally, please reverse this decision to not bus international students. 2 main reasons. There could be a hosting situation such as my first year where my daughter was a senior, the girl we hosted was a sophomore, and why take one and leave the other one there? And also to keep the good name that the educational in the educational community and public at large for this district. While it's your right, while you're within your right to not bus F1 visa kids, all other districts in our region are finding ways to allow this longstanding practice to continue within their transportation departments. Eliminating busing for 15 to 20 international students to 4 or 5 schools may or may not even result in freeing a driver unless it's at the expense of longer consolidated routes for residential kids attending these same schools. To conclude, please know that I hold our transportation people in the highest regard, as I do also with the common sense leadership approach of Superintendent Groutman and her staff. I want to thank the district for its significant role over the many decades in busing international kids, helping to make their dreams come true.
Thank
Please
you, Herb.
continue to bus those kids.
And thanks for that piece of history. I like that.
Right? Yeah.
Leslie?
Hello, my name is Leslie Kelly, Greece resident and graduate of Greece Olympia High School. Sorry, I'm so nervous. So it's come to my attention that there's just so much I want to fit in, so I probably won't be able to get into depth. Community schools, the Greece community schools. I'm sure you're all familiar with this saying. It sounds great, and it actually comes from a book called The Community School Revolution. There are some very questionable, from my point of view, views in this book. Page 123, Natasha Coulters, current executive director of ECJ, which I couldn't even figure out what that meant, Capers has an eye on the education, or on the eye for the next frontier of activism. Our schools aren't for activism. Our schools are for teaching. They're teaching the regular subjects, math, English, science, languages. Don't indoctrinate our kids. Another on page, when did schools become political? On page 127, it quotes that there's talking about Black Panthers. Black Panthers, that's Marxist, Leninist, a political group. On page 98, in the aftermath of President Trump, whether you like Trump or not, I don't care, but it's not supposed to be political. It's supposed to be about our kids. At Olympia, there are a lot of different flags. There's signs outside the bathroom. Oh, I got 2 minutes. We'll have to come back in February.
Leslie, we're welcome to come back. Thank you. Joe? No, Joe? Okay. Tiana? And Ms. Gibson? Okay, then. Thank you, we appreciate your comments. Okay, item two.
Before you do that, can I just make a comment? Typically, we don't do with residents forum, there's not a back and forth and conversation, but I would like to just point out that since there was multiple people here talking about transportation, that we will be planning an educational presentation, probably not in January, but in February, just to give, and build some bigger understanding around the crisis that we're facing and why we're having to make some of the decisions that we've made. So that will be to come in February, and just wanted to make sure that people were aware of that.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, item 2.01, staffing. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Greece School District approves the staffing appointments. Can I have a motion? Tammy, seconded by Todd. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Item 2.02, resolve that the Board of Education approves a tenure appointment. Can I have a motion? Tammy, seconded by Tracy. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Item 4.01, dual language presentation. Pardon?
I was looking at a.
Superintendent Grauman?
Yeah, sure. I would like to introduce some folks to come on up. We have Mr. Lewis here and Shauna Sweet here to do a presentation updating us, and I see Dr. Payne standing up as well, around our dual language program here in Greece that we are incredibly proud of. So we're looking forward to some updates and also for you to share some upcoming plans that we have related to your programming. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, and welcome back, everybody. It's nice to see everyone. Happy holidays. Happy New Year, excuse me. Excuse me. So this evening, we're going to present to you an update on our bilingual program. And basically, this is all rooted from our strategic plan around igniting learning. So the idea of, under Commitment 1, that we are adopting a curriculum that includes culturally authentic learning experiences that mirror our students' diverse identities and ways of understanding, communicating, demonstrating curiosity and knowledge. And then what are the evidence of success from that? We really are looking to tap into the assets of our students. So this idea of sharing traditions and cultural assets with staff to support integration of these values in the curriculum, as well as engaging our students in activities that improve the school climate and the culture for our students of diverse backgrounds. So one of the priority areas for us this year is being able to provide you with updates on our literacy rollout. So if you remember, back in October, we came and gave you an update on our K-2 literacy program. And this evening, in January, we're updating you on our bilingual program. You can see what's sort of set for you in upcoming months. In February, we're going to give you an update on the 3-5 program, May 6-8, and in June, we're going to take a forward look into the 24-25 school year. But basically this evening, our priority is giving you an update on our biliteracy program. So I'm going to turn it over to Shauna Sweet and to Jason Lewis to talk a little bit about the rollout of that for this year.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So before we go forward, we're going to look back a little bit and look at the history of our bilingual program here in Greece. So some people may or may not know, but from 2008 to 2017, Greece offered a bilingual program at English Village in Lakeshore. The program was paused due to the district moving away from signature schools, but in 2021, a new program proposal was put in place to reestablish a bilingual program with a gradual implementation. So in 2022, we had a bilingual program advisory committee, which convened to engage in professional learning, make recommendations of program logistics and curriculum. So we're looking forward to launching our new program once again at English Village in the fall of 2024 with our first cohort of 2 classes of kindergartners. The goal is to increase 1 grade level per school year, and having 2 classes at a time will help us to ensure the sustainability of the program as we progress over time. So just also, anchoring into some of our reasons why are we looking towards a bilingual program? So there are several reasons. One of the main reasons is NYSED regulations. So Commissioner Regulations Part 154 requires that a district establish a new bilingual education program if there are 20 or more English language learners of the same grade level and all of whom have the same home language in a school and or district. So that's, again, 20 students per grade level for the district. And this chart shows a little bit of our numbers of our current English language learners who have Spanish as a home language. So here in Greece, we've seen an increase of ELS, or English learners who use Spanish at home. So this slide shows the number of English learners who come from homes that speak Spanish, with the blue bar showing the number from last school year, 22-23, and the green bar is the number of students from the current school year. So you can see the number is steadily increasing from one year to the next. We received recently some updated numbers, and we continue to have Spanish-speaking students enter our district. So I thought this was an interesting chart as well. So current data shows that we have 20%, nearly 20% of Greece CSD students identify as Hispanic or Latino. And, furthermore, this number continues to grow. So you can see the number of students who identify as Hispanic is also on the rise. So this chart shows pointing, up towards the H, that you can see the incremental increase year after year from 2020 until now. And secondly, the research of multilingual learners indicates that 5 basic components of reading instruction, phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, they're important, but they're insufficient alone as literacy instruction for multilingual learners. So for these students, it's really important that we focus on oral language because it's foundational to literacy development, and biliteracy is advantageous for language development. So this graph, it represents English learners' long-term achievement on standardized tests in English reading compared across 7 English language program development models. So you can see in the red, program 1 is the 2-way dual language model, which we are planning on, and Jason will share a little bit more about. But this illustrates seminal research findings of more than 32 years on long-term academic and reading outcomes for multilingual learners. This study really shows that dual language is the program model that prevents or closes the opportunity gap at the greatest rate for English learners, and that English only and transitional bilingual programs of short duration only close about half the achievement gap. between English learners and native speakers, while high-quality, long-term bilingual programs close all of the gaps after 5 to 6 years of schooling through the students' first and second languages. So longitudinal studies also indicate the many benefits for students who come from English-speaking households, in particular students of color. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jason, principal of English Village, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the program models and what we have in the works.
Thank you, Shauna. Good evening. I'm Jason Lewis, the proud principal of English Village Elementary Primary School here in Greece. Good evening, board members and community members. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the two-way model here. The model that we will be using is defined by the New York State Education Department as a two-way dual language program because it includes both native English speakers and ELLs, English language learners. The teacher or teachers provide instruction in both English and the home primary language. In the majority of dual language programs, the students receive half of their instruction in their home or / primary language and the remainder of their instruction in the target language. The goal of these programs is for students to develop literacy and proficiency in English and in the home target language, which is the second language that is being acquired or learned. One last reason why we want to promote bilingualism and biliteracy for our students is because of our third commitment in the strategic plan, to expand opportunities for our graduates. As we continue to engage with the global economy, language skills are a vital asset in the U.S. workplace. A 2019 report based on a survey of 1,200 U.S. employers indicated an urgent and growing demand for language skills in the U.S. workplace. 90% of employers surveyed stated that they rely on employees with language skills other than English, with a majority anticipating the demand for such skills to increase in the next 5 years. We know that bilingualism and biliteracy will open the doors to more opportunities for our students as they enter adulthood. So what is new this time around with the bilingual program? We're placing a lot of emphasis on preparation, recruitment of staff and students, and outreach to families and community partners. These are some examples of the things that we have been working on as a team. For recruitment and community engagements, we are working on offering the Latino family literacy program this year with the support of English Village's Community Schools Site Coordinator, our bilingual parent coordinator, Spanish language and culture coach, and the pre-K emergent multilingual learner specialist. We also have the benefit of having the seal of biliteracy as a goal for our students at graduation. To support instruction, we have a new TOSA, that's a teacher on special assignment for world languages. We will be using a 3-teacher model, a family group with 2 elementary teachers and 1 bilingual teacher working across classrooms, which will start in kindergarten, as Shauna noted. We are looking to provide our students with a pre-assessment for Spanish and utilizing more recently developed Spanish materials that align completely with our Tier 1 resources for students not engaged in the program. None of these existed in our previous model, and we learned that greater supports and resources were needed to ensure the program's success. In the past, this program was siloed in our implementation, and as you can see, our families and community members will be playing a much greater role in our success as supported by our strategic plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So what will this look like on a daily or weekly basis? So this is what we're currently looking at for our content allocation plan. So one benefit we have right now is an increased availability of Spanish materials. So it will help make the transition to the new program more efficient and smooth. So different from the past, we now have resources that are already aligned with the curriculums that we are invested in. For example, you know, our iReady curriculum that we already utilize for math, Spanish is included in that. So not only is it more, you know, cost efficient, I think there's equity because the students in the bilingual classes will be doing the exact same thing as the students in the monolingual classes. So this slide shows our current content allocation plan. It identifies which language will be the primary focus for each content area area in kindergarten, although we know that teachers will work together to bridge the students' language across languages for transfer of content in both languages. We're planning a slow rollout, like we mentioned before, with the focus being on kindergarten first, then adding a grade each year, and we're aiming for 2 classes per grade level. So I'll talk a little bit about our next steps. We've been engaging staff and district leaders in a variety of professional learning opportunities. So some examples is working closely with the school improvement team at English Village at their biweekly conferences and the whole building at the October Superintendent Conference Day. We've been working with the Center for Teaching for Biliteracy to do an online book study and participate in online training for teachers and leaders. We have been participating in bilingual professional learning communities in the region and across the state, and we're hoping to be able to get a chance to see and connect with more districts across the state this spring. We have a advisory committee with a variety of stakeholders. We're using the NICED briefs and the guiding principles for dual language education, and also American Reading Company. They've provided a multilingual learner guide training, and they are consulting with us to ensure that our curriculum development is smooth and effective. We've been attending several conferences. We'll be going to the National Association of Bilingual Education and also connecting with the New York State Association for Bilingual Education and individual sessions with Dr. Jose Medina, who's one of the authors of the Guiding Principles for Dual Language Education. And we're going to continue to grow. We're working closely with Midwest Auburn at Monroe to Orleans BOCES, the NICED Office of Bilingual Education and World Languages, American Reading Company, and the Center for Teaching for Biliteracy. That's what we've got coming up on the horizon, and now we'll see if you have any questions.
Questions? Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
I have a comment. Wonderful. Thank you, Shauna. Mary, I remember when you and I were at a meeting, I think it was last year, and we both had the same wondering. Why aren't we teaching our kids another language at a young age? And here it is. I'm looking forward to seeing how this progresses. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mark?
Yeah.
Thank you. I think I was at that meeting, and it was a really great presentation.
Thank you.
Shauna. So this might really sound odd. What is the goal of it? I see on page 12 it talks about developing literacy and proficiency in English and in the home language. So maybe you can explain that to me a little bit, because I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially what we're hoping for is bilingualism and biliteracy in both languages, so that students, whether they come from English-speaking homes or Spanish-speaking homes, will continue to learn and grow in both languages and eventually become fully able to navigate the world, be bilingual, be able to speak, but also be biliterate, and be able to read and write and communicate across cultures.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is not rolled out across, or I know it's incremental, but is it intended to be something for all classes or just for students who want to participate in it? Because I know toward the end you mentioned monolanguage classes and...
Yeah, that's a good question. So at English Village, there will be 2 bilingual classes, and there will be about 4 classes that are not participating in the bilingual program.
So otherwise, everyone would participate going forward anyway.
So 2 classes will be bilingual, and 4 classes will be monolingual.
Okay.
General ed, sorry.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the goal is to about half students who speak Spanish at home and half students who speak English at home. And yeah, I hope that helps.
Sharita?
How will the students be chosen to be a part of this program?
Yeah. That's a great question. So we are working on recruiting our native Spanish speakers. We are trying to connect with our preschool students who speak Spanish at home and being able to educate their parents and hopefully, invite them to participate in the program. And the students who speak only English at home will be students from the English Village school zone who will figure out a process to allow them to participate.
Tracy?
That's Megan.
Oh, Megan, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the presentation. You said that this is an incremental thing, and right now we're just doing it for kindergartners and such. So I see that the goal is, if it's an incremental thing, are we going to do it in the second grade, third grade, fourth grade, all the way up to? So at what point do the kids, our native language is English. Are we going to be fluent in English? I know you said multi-languages, but our native tongue is English. So I'm kind of curious as to why we are going to then be incrementing bilingual when this is the United States of America. They are coming here because of our dreams and our aspirations. Wouldn't that be beneficial for them to learn our native language? Would be any different that if we walked over to, say, China, and all of a sudden we decided that we don't go over there and say we want to speak English and do all that? Why are we doing something different that normally other nations would not do?
So I think, just so I'm clear, so you're asking, why are we teaching two languages instead of just English?
Yes, we also have a program as far as our second language is concerned, where the kids can they can choose from French and Italian. My native language would also be, if I wasn't English, my kids would be Italian. My daughter takes Italian. So I'm kind of curious how you're going to fit all of the second language requirements that the state brings on us when really we're doing English first. And if we're going to try to increment this, why are we, at what point do we lose why people came here for us?
So that's probably a bigger question than I can answer right now. But what I will say is, just anchoring into the regulations, the state put a lot of thought into making sure that they really utilize the research and the experts in the field, not only for, a language other than English, but also knowing what teaching multiple languages does for students' brains and also for their language development. So it really will help all of our students further develop their language.
Okay, thank you.
Todd?
Thanks, and thanks for the presentation. I'm really excited about this opportunity for our district students. We had an exchange student from Sweden last year who was a high school student, and she had always lived in Sweden, but spoke very fluent English, took tons of English coursework in her native Sweden, and it was such an asset to her to be able to come to this country and be able to participate fully. And so I'm glad to hear that we're making this investment in instruction. I wonder if the English Village School was chosen because of the percentage of Spanish-speaking families that we had at that school, if there was another reason that school was chosen.
Yeah, so I don't know if Val can speak to that. I know that some of the work was done with the consultants, the Red Group, but I can say that English Village is one of the schools, English Village Lakeshore in Arcadia, with a higher percentage of Hispanic students.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay.
I think that was also one of the original recommendations, one of the original recommendations from the committee too that was looking at it. And English Village also seemed to make a lot of sense because that was sort of where the program existed before. So a lot of the staff were really steeped in sort of, seeing the benefit of it from the students, and were really disappointed when we stopped that program, several years ago. So that was another reason that English Village was selected.
Tammy?
Thank you for the presentation. I am excited to hear about this program and that, well, I don't speak another language, and I wish I did. My husband comes from a family he grew up speaking Portuguese, and he went to kindergarten to learn how to speak English. So in understanding some of the comments that he's made about that, I'm excited about the fact that I know these kids, as they learn and they are learning English, they still think in Spanish. And they do that for years. And I know that only because as I watch my husband's relatives, some of who have gotten a little bit on in years, as their mind unfortunately starts to go, they automatically revert back to their native language. So it's interesting to hear that we're going to be teaching both of those things. My question, I guess, is as we begin this program, I'm assuming we're going to be basing some data around that, because my expectation would be if we're offering instruction in their native language, that we're hoping that their math scores go up, that their reading scores go up, and that we're going to be looking for opportunities to expand that with other students in other areas. How are we targeting that, and are we looking at expanding that into other schools, and what kind of timeline might we be looking at, or is that really too preliminary of a question based on the fact that we're just starting?
Great question. What I can say, and we are, as I mentioned, we're working with other groups around the state. So like currently I'm in a PLC with leaders from downstate where there are a lot of bilingual programs, not just in Spanish, but in Chinese and Arabic and Hebrew. So we are spending a lot of time in there. Fortunately, some of them are using the American Reading Company curriculum, the Art Corps, and they're able to show some of the data so we can kind of get a sense of, okay, well, how are we going to track the data? So we are certainly looking into that. And in terms of scaling up or scaling to other schools, it's not something that is in the works just yet, but who knows? I'm not really sure what'll happen down the road, but I think for now we're really focusing on our EV kiddos and staff.
Sharita?
I too think it's a great opportunity, so thank you for the presentation. Anywhere our kids go in the world, they're going to encounter people that speak different languages. So the more we can prepare our kids, the better off we are. It helps with communication as well as advancement. So my other question is, and maybe again it's too early, but I see this as a blueprint as for dual languages in other languages. I think that if this is successful, then we can start to, or we should at least start to look at other languages that we can start, to teach our kids at an earlier age, and maybe it be parents' choice. So as my colleague stated, her kids would take Italian. They could learn that earlier, so they would be more proficient moving forward, or French or Arabic. Our community here in Greece is changing. The next language I would think of in my mind, just based on what I see in the population, I would think maybe Arabic, because that population is growing large. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I commend you all for piloting this program, and I'm looking forward to it being a blueprint to help our kids be able to compete on an international level. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
It's all right, thanks. Sharita actually better articulated my first question, which was how will students be invited to participate, or will they be invited, or are they just, you're taking this? Or, but then the second one was exactly that. Will we have opportunities, and are we maintaining the opportunities to study the other languages alongside this? And then will it be, rolled out in other opportunities? So I think that's exciting. My navigator's set for Italian, so I can continue to learn that. Fortunately, I'm making the correct turns when it says to. But this is really interesting. I am curious. I calculated like a 56% growth rate from last year to this year in students who would be students. Do we have projections for what that looks like going forward? And any information on that? And maybe you don't have that, but.
For English language learner students in general, we've seen a steady increase, not only, in Greece, but across the nation. So I'm not sure about any projections per se right now, but we could maybe work on that.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Anybody else? Megan, I said it right.
Yes, I just wanted to piggyback off of Mark's question, and I know we are in this situation with having second language is a huge thing right now. And again, it is throughout the nation. So my curiosity is just as it is. I mean, we do have to provide services through these people. That's why they do come here. So I know I sound a little harsh, but it's because they're coming here for us. So I asked this question. It says that we do have, and as Mark said, that we're on a 50% upswing. And this is just relating to Spanish kids. How many actual kids are in our newcomer program with our host families that are using our English as second language? How many new kids do we have in this program that have attended our schools?
I don't think I have that, I mean, I could provide that information, I just don't have it right now,
Okay.
but newcomer students, you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not
That
prepared
don't
to answer that right now,
You got
but
it.
we do have the information.
Okay, you can get that to me. at
Yeah,
any
and we
time.
do have newcomer programs at the high school level, so.
Wonderful, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you so much.
Thank
It
you.
was wonderful to hear about it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, item 4.02, reserve funds. Superintendent Groutman?
Yeah, I'm going to turn this right over to Romeo to give us an update, our annual update of where we are with reserve funds.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight, as we do, as Superintendent Groutman indicated, we do this around this time each year as we're going into the 24-25 budget development process, kind of give an update of where we ended the school year in terms of reserves as of June 20th, 2023. Overall, the district continues to have strong reserves, and you'll see that throughout the presentation, primarily due to a couple of reasons. One is we've seen a significant increase in our foundation aid over the last 3 years as they fully implemented the formula, and there's been a lot of federal funds available to us. With that comes a lot of opportunity to do some things that we haven't been able to do in the past, as well as to fully take advantage of the grants that we do have. There's the opportunity to take expenditures in our regular operating budget and fund them through the grant process, which creates fund balance for us. And since we can't spend that post fact, we put that money away in our reserves to be used going forward, which is what we plan to do. As you'll see with the reserves, one of the basic premises that we anticipate the next 3 or 4 years at the state level will be deficit budgets for them. They've cut their projections in half. Used to be about $36 million or $36 billion or $9 billion for next year. Now it's at $4.5 billion. In anticipation of that, we're keeping our reserves handy and flexible so that we could come back to the board with the plan for not only next year, but 2 or 3 years after that. Additionally, I would say that we're also looking at other strategic uses of the reserves that would be in the best interest of district itself and for the residents of the district. There's a variety of other things we can do with them, but it's too early right now to project out which one would be the most strategic way to go with that. So with that, our use of reserves, why do we have them? It's a savings account for districts. It helps us reduce our long-term costs for borrowings, smooths fluctuations in the tax rates, eliminates mid-year budgets. We can use them for one-time expenditures, and it gives us the ability to weather any type of emergency projects that may be out there. The Board of Education is responsible for managing the reserves and the financial affairs of the district. The board has the authority to transfer reserves and approve reserves, and also to use any fund balance that we might have to reduce the ensuing year's tax levy. So one of the pieces that we always take a look at every year is Moody's. As everyone knows, we do capital projects every summer. We are constantly borrowing funds. Reserves is a large component for a Moody's investment service to look at us, to put a rating on the district as we go out for funding to fund our capital projects, our transportation center, our school improvements, anything out there that we want to do, we've got to go borrow money. Reserves is a key component for us. We just went out, buses is another example too that we go out and borrow for. We just did a borrowing in September of '23 for a short-term borrowing of about $5.5 million. And a couple of the comments you can see here from the Moody's Investor Service, the district benefits from a stable economy, healthy finances, manageable long-term liabilities, and we're able to control our spending and plan for future debt issuances. They look at your reserves and try to determine if you're going to be able to pay back those that debt that you're borrowing from them, and we've been in a position where we can do that steadily and comfortably. So what does that mean? AA3 rating is what we have as of September of '23. You can see here just a scale of what it means. Non-investment grades are on the bottom, lower medium grades are next in the blue, upper medium grade is the yellow, and we are in the high grade investment category. You can see that we're at an AA3. Just as a reference point, New York State is at an AA1. Monroe County is at an A1, City of Rochester's at an A1. We're a little bit above that, but not quite at the state level. We've been able to maintain that AA3 credit rating for years now, and a lot of it has to do with not only the way we operate the district, but also having healthy reserves out there. So as we take a look, this is just our financial position at the end of the 22-23 school year. Balances in the first column represent June of '23. The other column represents the balances of '22. You can see we went from total all-in reserves from about $94 million up to about $116 million. One of the other items to note is that our appropriated fund balance, that balance that we use to put towards the levy the following year, again, was at zero. It's our second year. That was always been our goal, and we've been able to accomplish that. As we look more into some of the other reserves and positions of some other funds that we have in the district, our food service fund balance increased about $150,000 from the previous year, from 2.9 to about $3.1 million. Our capital fund balances, you can see here, XL2 has decreased to about $151,000. It's a small balance, but that's because we're using that project to do the lock set, the door hardware stuff that's being done throughout the district. Reimagine Greece, June 30th of '22, we had $13 million in fund balance. Now we're negative 1.2. That is strictly a result of timing. Normally, we would have done borrowing before the end of June. We didn't do that for this year. We borrowed the funds in September. So really, that's just a timing issue that it shows a negative balance. And our debt service fund decreased from $3.5 million to $2.8 million. That is the fund that we use to keep that portion of the tax cap calculation level at $2.7 million local share. So pretty stable, not only in the general fund, but in the other funds as well. Just a quick look at our appropriated fund balance. This is the money that we would take out of the current year and come to the board and recommend that we put it towards next year's tax levy. You can see for a number of years prior to the far right, the 22, 23, and 23 school year, we had always appropriated $6-7 million. We've been able to make that go to zero, which means that we don't have to rely on any surplus balance in the current year to fund the tax levy for the following year, which is a good place for the district to be. Our unappropriated fund balance history, this is that 4% by law, by New York State law. We can carry a balance of 4% of the following year's budget as a rainy day fund. You can see here we've grown that. We've always stayed at the 4%, and that money is there in the event of emergency. We always use the example, but of roof blowing off, but it happens a little bit more than you think. If it doesn't come off, it gets loose, and we have to repair those, and this is somewhat of the way we do it. And then quickly, just going through the reserves, not spending a ton of time, because I know this is a repeat for many people, but just to kind of go through and give everybody an idea here. Our workers' compensation reserve, we are self-funded. We use this reserve to pay worker comp claims as we needed. It's a very flexible reserve. So you see the balance in here is just over $19 million. Do we have workers' comp claims worth $19 million? No, but this is a flexible reserve that as we need to utilize it to either balance the budget next year or in the following years, we can come to the board and we're able, through a proper mechanism, ask the board to withdraw money from this reserve to help us fund items in the operating budget. Therefore, this is one of the places where we like to keep it because it is flexible. You can see the green bars are where we've been making deposits. The red bars are when we took them out. Again, took money out. This is where we're about $19 million. Unemployment reserve. Pay claims as they come up. Again, this is the second flexible reserve for the district. Do we have $12 million in unemployment claims? We do not, but as we need to come to the board to ask for funding to put into the operating budget to fund one-time items, this would be another place we would come to do that with. We've got about $12.6 million in this reserve. Insurance reserve, you can see the last time, prior to the last couple years, 21, 22, we put $2 million in here. Last year, we put $1 million. You'll see a gap between 2009, 10, and 20. There was a 10-year period. We put no funding in here. Two items that have made up the $3 million in deposits. One is the Child Victims Act that was out there. We are prepared that if there are any claims against the district from years ago, whether they be students or adults, we've got money to go ahead and be able to settle those claims if we need to. And the other big component of this is cyber insurance. So if there was a cyber attack on the district, we would have enough money put away that we believe to handle the monitoring and all the other expenses that come with it. One of the challenges with cyber is that it's hard to get insurance for cyber insurance given everything that's going on today. So if you can find a company that will insure you for cyber, it's a very hefty premium. If you can't find it, we need to be self-funded in case that event happens. We can take care of those types of expenditures for a couple years. Tax Certiorari Reserve has about $3.1 million. We follow a fixed methodology. We've been doing it the same way for about 20 years. This balance has been stable around $2 or $3 million. These are claims that businesses, folks that own apartment complexes, businesses, they wish to contest the assessed value of their appraisals. So if a building, if they're taxed on $1 million and they say they believe it's only worth $100,000, we need to be prepared that a court will say, yes, it's only worth $100,000. You need to refund these individuals the money. This is where we would pay for it. Our total exposure, as we look at this every year, if we've had to pay every tax cert claim that was out there for us, we would pay out about $7.1 million. So we're funded about half of that. And we've currently got about 35 entities that have tax cert claims against the district. So we believe we're in good shape here. We're covered. Our liability reserve is limited to 3% of our budget, which would be about $8.7 million. We're currently at 6.6. It covers property loss or liability when it's court ordered against the district. We could use it for 3020A and Section 75 damages if needed as well. We believe, again, this is another reserve that is funded at the appropriate level at this point. We also have an ERS, or Employee Retirement System, reserve. It's used to mitigate the impact of the ERS rates that the employers pay for all our employees. that are in the local retirement system. We have about $22.5 million here. Again, this is another flexible reserve. There's no limit on the ERS reserve. And for next year, our current rate that we pay into the ERS reserve is about 13.1% of salaries. That rate is expected to go up to potentially 15.2%, which on $30 or $40 million could be a significant impact to the general fund budget. So if that were to come up, one option is to go here and pull the monies out for a couple of years out of this reserve in order to fund it. Similarly, we have a TRS, Teacher Retirement System Reserve, that was initiated just a few years ago. We got about $9 million. It's similar to the ERS reserve. It has an annual cap of 2% contribution a year with a maximum of 10% of administrative or teacher salaries, certified salaries. Currently, we're very close to the max, so I'm not certain if we'll be able to put any more funds into this reserve. But again, it would be used for the same purpose. ERS and TRS are both lagged a couple years to market. So currently, the current TRS rate is 9.75. They're indicating right now we could go to 10.25%, and we're expecting that that will increase in the next 2 or 3 years as well. This would be an offset for us to be able to keep the operating budget flat by drawing out of this reserve. Our building reserve is used to pay the local share of capital projects. This reserve is currently maxed out per the authorization. We will need to have a new authorization for a capital project. This $10.2 million that is here now is what we will use to fund the next capital project that we will ask voters to, residents to vote on. It'll probably be in the neighborhood of $45 or $50 million project. Similarly, we have a bus reserve. Again, this is used to pay the local share of any bus purchases, similar to the capital projects. Make just a quick comment on the local share. What we're able to do for both capital projects and bus purchases is that there's no additional local share to residents. So if we spend $1,000 on buses, we get $800 back from the state, and we take $200 out of the reserve. $1,000 equals $1,000. There's no additional cost to residents on the tax levy. And we're able to do that with all our capital projects and all of our local bus purchases. We've been able to do that for years, and we anticipate that we'll be able to do that going forward. We've got about $6.2 million. If there was a concern or we had to, we could pay for 6 or 7 years worth of bus purchase local share with this reserve. Again, those would not be electric buses because this wouldn't even cover a small portion of it, but these are gas buses that we would have to purchase. So in total, green box represents, again, this goes back to 2005-06. The current green box is the monies that we've deposited into our reserves, about $143 million over that period of time. We've withdrawn in the red about $50 million, leaves us a balance of about $93.3 million available to the district to strategically use it as we need to. And then this final slide is just a slide to tie back. If you're looking at the financial statements, which some people do, it's not easy to always see where that $93 million is, but we wanted to identify it here. It's those blue items, which are the actual reserves we're speaking of this evening, that come to the $93.3 million. Our next step, we know we're fully funded in 23-24. What we're uncertain is, how solid is that commitment, right? So we've been preliminarily notified that they're following the formula, which is great, but if the state runs into a deficit, will they follow the formula and then take back some funds to cover their gap? It's happened in the past, so we're not 100% confident that that wouldn't happen. So we're keeping our eye out on that. We're going to finalize our federal stimulus fund expenditures to make sure that we don't fall off of this financial cliff when the funds are no longer available. As of June 30th, 2024, all those monies will have been expired, and we'll continue to strategically visit our reserve plan and come back to the board and others over the next 3 to 5 years, and constantly have that as a working plan out there to how we're going to best use these reserves to keep the levy and the rates down as much as we can for our residents.
Questions? Sharita?
Two things. So first, I see that all of the funds, sorry about that. So first, I see that all of the funds include interest, so we have been able to take advantage of the great interest rates that have been available through the various financial institutions to help us grow our money.
Hugely. So one of the big opportunities at these funds, we haven't had to use them, so they sit for 12 months. So when you're talking $40 or $50 million at 5% a year, we get that interest, comes into the general fund, and then quarterly, we put it to the applicable reserve based on the balance that reserve has in it. So yes, and you'll see on each of the slides, it does say includes interest.
Yeah.
But yes, they're all and I would say all of these reserves funds are pretty much invested all year long.
Great, great. Second question?
ahead.
The second question is, so we're hearing through New York State that New York State's going to have this deficit, and, you know, there's questions about the aid and the amount that we may have. Where do we fit in that picture?
Currently, they have run, so there's 2 databases that they run at the state level. One is the November database, one is the February database. The November database is run based on all the information districts report through September and October. That database run is what's used for the governor's budget in January. And then they redo it again in February, and that's what's used for the legislative budget in March. As of the November database, we're looking at, for the foundation aid, a 4% increase for next year. We were wondering whether it was going to be 2% or less than 2% or maybe even 0 because of the numbers that we were hearing, $9 billion. They've now said it's about $4.5 billion for next year. We're still anticipating, based off the November database, a $4 million foundation aid increase. At this point in time, whether they'll offset that with some other mechanism, we're not sure, but we're going to look at a $4 million foundation aid, which is the full phase-in of our formula. So it's, right now, we're in good shape on the foundation aid side of it because of our numbers in the formula have not changed significantly from the last 2 or 3 years.
Questions? Todd?
Thanks. And thanks for the presentation, Romeo, and for your explanation of what's very complex information. We're glad that we've got you watching it all for us. A very specific question on the tax cert reserve. You mentioned that the claims that are out there are about twice what we have in the reserve fund. And I just wonder if that 50% coverage is based sort of on a historical average of what our liability generally ends up being?
Maybe a better way to what I didn't mention is we follow a methodology. So we've done this for the last probably 20 years. We take the current year tax cert claims and we reserve 100% for those. The claims that came in 2 years ago, we reserved 75%. The claims that came in 3 years ago, we reserved 50. 4 years ago, 25. Anything beyond 4 years ago, although they're still on the books, we don't reserve for them because the likelihood that they're going to be court ordered to be paid at that point are smaller. So through that methodology of 100, 75, 50, and 25, it's kept us right in the ballpark of whereabouts we should be, which is around 50% of the claims. Some years it's only been about 30%. Really hasn't gotten up to about 50% until the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Mark?
Thanks, Romeo. Just curious, with regard to the retirement reserves, should we have another situation like the Great Recession? It was, calamity for the assets underlying pensions. Would we be obligated to restore those assets, and would these reserves be needed for that, or is that covered under the state pension program?
So, let me think about this. If, again, we're 2 years lagged on the rates, so if the economy took a dip and went into a recession, obviously that would hurt the retirement system. We wouldn't feel it for 2 years later, but those rates would go from 10% to 15% or 17 or 18%. It's in those years we would then, so when you take, I'll just make up a number, $100 million at 10%, $10 million. If that rate were to go to 17% somewhere down the road, that same $100 million would cost us $17 million a year. We would then pull, if our operating budget couldn't handle it, we would pull that additional money out of the ERS or the TRS reserve.
So the district would have to make up for that?
We would not make up the pension itself that's distributed monthly. We'd have to pay it via the rates that would increase 2 years after the event happened.
Okay.
So the state would come back and say, we've now got to take our rates from 10% to 14% to 15% to 17%. So for that 3 or 4 year period, we'd be pulling money out of a reserve in order to pay the employer contribution, which would be the funds that are used to pay out all those short-funded pensions that would be out there.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you, Romeo, for
Thank you,
a very
everyone.
thorough presentation. Okay, item 6.01, change orders. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the district to execute change order numbers EC 084 to Hewitt Electric in the amount of $29,644.53. Can I have a motion? Todd, seconded by Tracy. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That passes 7-0. Item number 8 is the consent agenda. That's all written information. What? Oh, sorry, second change order. You're right, I missed it. Second change order. Okay, EC 085. It's a change order valued at minus $23,680. Can I have a motion to accept that? Tracy, seconded by Todd. All those in favor, I'm sorry. That passes 7-0. Good catch. Okay, consent agenda, item 8. It's written information, no, what'd I do? I'm trying, no. Budget status report, 7.04, written information only. Do we vote on that? No? Okay. For all of you watching, no. If I could only do 2 in a row, I'd be good. 2 a year is not very helpful. Okay. Consent agenda, number 8. Written information only. Say it, Sharita. Yes, can I have a motion to move the consent agenda? Tracy, seconded by Sharita. All those in favor? That passes 7-0. Okay, and I want to point out that the GEF, the Greece Education Foundation, has donated $16,675.28 to the Greece School District. Thank you, Greece Education Foundation. All righty then. Brings us to item number 12. Board member comments. Where do you want to start? Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank all the parents that came here for tonight to show up and speak on behalf of your school. That shows truly that you guys are here for your kids, and I appreciate that very greatly. Mrs. Meng, Leslie, Meng, Kelly, I can't remember these days. It is nervous coming up here, but I think you're going to do just fine. You did a tremendous speech, and I thank you for the thoughts on the Community Schools Revelation book that we're doing, the settlement sink-in. Jordan, I appreciate you actually doing the town hall. That is something that you did, and I see your passion on this. I can't wait to see this, and I will definitely be there for you. So in that, I will end tonight. Thank you all.
Mark.
First, you did a great job.
Thank
you
you.
so much. Again, yeah, you need more opportunities because I enjoyed the slower pace. So thank you. Great job. I also want to thank parents and guardians who came out tonight to express their concern about the busing, school bus transportation issues. I also want to thank the district, Superintendent Groutman and Transportation Director Richardson, I thought he was here, for their hard work in grappling with a really difficult situation. And I really appreciate that parents came out to speak, that our administration is listening and is really concerned about it. So thank you all around. That's, yeah, Jordan said it earlier, better together. That's great. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you all.
Sharita.
I also want to thank the parents for coming out and speaking tonight. When we get your emails, we do read them, and we, have conversations in our executive session, text messages, we go back and forth, so your voices don't go unheard. I would also encourage you all to attend the upcoming transportation presentation that's going to happen. We want to have information for you because this problem isn't going to go away. We were able to, make some accommodations for to the end of this school year, but we do have a bus driver shortage. So please tell your family, your friends, your loved ones, anyone that might be looking for something to be of service to our children. We need help. We really do need help. So I'm looking forward to that presentation, and I know that Superintendent Groutman is going to be reaching out to all of you who spoke tonight, and we'll be publicizing that so that you all can be a part of it and make your voices be heard. I also want to thank the Transportation Department as well for the work that they're doing. I know it's not easy. And just to say that, I'm echoing everything you're saying, Mark. But it is our theme for this year that we are better together. And we are trying to get our children to a point where, they are adults that can survive in this world and be successful, whatever that success looks like for them. So thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it. And I'd like to thank my colleagues on the board. We may not always agree on everything, but the one thing I am sure of is that we all come here to be able to support our children and our families in this district. So again, thank you to all of you.
Todd.
Thank you. And so I won't echo everything that my board colleagues said, although I agree with a lot of it. But I do want to hit on a few things. And one is an expansion on the, come work in transportation, if you've got a mind to. But bus drivers and teachers aren't the only people that work in this district. In fact, we've got tons of openings in the district for lots of other roles. And we really think that the school district is a great place to work. So please explore that if you're looking to make a career change. I want to congratulate an Arcadia High School math teacher, Mark Hilberger, who Superintendent Groutman told us won the Golden Apple Award from Channel 8. So we're very happy to be able to recognize that. I mentioned at a previous board member comment about attendance, and I just want to hit on that again. Coming back from the holidays, it can be hard to get back into the swing of things, but every minute in school matters. Even if your kid misses the bus, don't let them miss the whole day. And if you need help getting your kids to school on a regular basis, the school will help because they want nothing more than your student to be there and to be helpful in that in any way that they can. There's a survey that's coming out for families and associated with students in special education. I know we all get so many survey invitations and we can get survey fatigue, but if you get a survey from the district, it's because we want to know what you're thinking, what your experiences are. So please try to make the time to complete those surveys so that your voice can be heard. I guess two other quick things. I learned that Kids Care, our after-school program, is going to be developing a literacy program and tutoring program at Long Ridge and English Village elementary schools. And you can come into these schools, build a relationship with a wonderful little kid, read to them on a regular basis, and have a really rewarding experience. So if you're watching this or if you're listening to this, and that's something that sounds exciting to you, we would really encourage you to reach out to learn some more about that. And then last, I'm a proud graduate of Greece Athena High School, very involved in the music program. I have a group of guys that I get together with every time over the holidays. They come in from all over, and we're all in the music program together, and we jam in my buddy's basement, and had a lot of fun doing that. And so when I saw that Jazz 90.1 is going to be featuring Athena High School jazz band students on the air once a month in January, February, March, April, and May from 1:15 to 2 p.m., I said, boy, I got to tune in for that. And so I want to promote that as much as I can because we've got an amazing arts program throughout this district, and that's a great way to learn about it. So thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
Tracy?
Happy New Year. I want to just say that to everyone here, everyone out there, we have a new beginning, which is always great. And I also want to say another shout out. I did the Titan Times for Arcadia. I want to let Sage and Michael know that I enjoyed reading their articles. So great work, you guys. Keep it up.
Anybody else? Tammy? Okay, my turn. First of all, thank you, parents who did come. We do need to hear from you, and we appreciate it. It's not easy giving 3 minutes, and we appreciate your time. I want to remind people that there's a lot of winter sports going on, and students would love to see people in the stands. So if you have a chance to make it to a game, you can go on our website, look at each individual school, and bring down the sports schedule. They'd love to have you there. And it's also wonderful for younger children who aren't ready to do sports yet to see what it looks like. Took my granddaughter to see wrestling. That was quite interesting for her, just saying. But anyway, want to wish you all a Happy New Year, and thank you for coming today. Superintendent Groutman.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. The first thing I would start with is Happy New Year as well. I want to start by just recognizing our budget finance office. Romeo did a nice job of explaining the reserve funds tonight, but I think the biggest thing that is important for people to realize, I joke around sometimes about Romeo's presentations and sometimes the level of detail and if it's really exciting. The reality is our district relies so heavily on really strong budget management. And the idea and the work that goes into budgeting and really allocating reserves, particularly when we're talking about a mechanism within school funding that doesn't make a whole lot of sense and is not very predictable. So when he stands up and says that we were looking at 4%, we don't know that from year to year. So we don't know next year what that'll look like. It might be flat, it might be 1%. So try to imagine having a job where a main funding source you don't necessarily know, which is why I just want to give a shout out because the idea of the use of reserves in such calculated, strategic ways is so, so important to the functioning of this district, not just now and for next year, but like I have confidence going out years because of how smart and how hard your team works. So Janine, you're standing there. I just want to say that out loud because it's really important. And nothing that we have talked about can ever happen without money. So it's just important to give that shout out. So thank you for that, and I know you're also entering a really difficult, budget season is always difficult and a ton of work on your team, so just thank you for all of that. I would also just say thank you, Shauna, for the work with the bilingual presentation. I would say, I just want to say, as somebody who took Spanish in 7th grade, in 8th grade, and I took it all through high school, and I actually took it in college and can't speak a word of it. And I think it's because from a U.S. perspective, I don't think we have it right in terms of how we introduce language. And if we know anything about learning, we know little kids learn language much easier. And that is true for so many countries around the world. And really just the way we acquire. So I'm really excited about the bilingual program. And I also know from being here at the time as a principal that there were really great results in a lot of different ways, from New York State test scores to just internal mechanisms that we used back then. So looking forward to seeing that get up and running, and thank you for the work with that. The CSC, or the special ed survey that Mr. Butler talked about, I think is important. So we have talked here and heard from people who've had experiences within the special education domain that are challenging. So oftentimes when parents come to us and they have a child who's struggling, that is like the most awful time as a parent, because all you want for your kid is to learn and to do well. And if you're in the special education domain and world, it's probably because there's struggles. So we have great empathy for that. We have a ton of programming and a ton of services for that. We are not perfect, but I can say that we work really, really hard to make sure kids get what they need. That doesn't always match up perfectly with what parents want. And that's, we have to recognize, sometimes the parent might not be right, sometimes we might not be right. But either way, the survey piece that we're introducing is a way to get feedback after CSC meetings. That came from a parent being here, talking at Residence Forum, saying that they would like something like that. So I want to point that out because it's really important for us that when people talk and share information with us, that we are listening. And sometimes we can do something like that really and like get it like right into place. Sometimes we can't perfectly, but we are always working on that and working to improve. And lastly, the transportation issue. So I'm looking at you, I'm looking at your faces because I see you, and I see the struggle and the issue. I need you to also understand that while I'm listening, that I also am not really optimistic. And I say that very honestly with you because we are in a shortage. You don't know. What you don't know is the techs start at 5 in the morning. They start at 5 in the morning because we're short bus drivers, people call in sick, things happen. Those techs then lead to an entire department and a communications department and principals all connecting around, okay, so what are we doing? How are we combining runs? What can we do to save time? Getting robocalls out. There's a ton of things that are happening in the wee hours of the morning on a daily basis. We have tried so many different things, and that's partly why we will be doing a presentation, and that presentation is going to take you through a bit of history because this isn't new. This has actually been going on for years. It just continues to get worse based on the workforce and the CDL issue that's going on. So I'm looking forward to that, but I also don't want to overpromise, and I don't want people to think that because you came and we did listen, that we can necessarily solve that. It doesn't mean you weren't heard. It just means I don't necessarily know that we can solve this. We have provided more than what we've needed to. And I say that because it doesn't feel like that to you. You've gotten your kids to school. But ultimately, by law and the state, we've over-provided. And what we're finding is when we have kids in Greece who are getting to Athena and missing algebra 3 days during a week, that becomes a priority too. Because I can't have kids missing their first class every day or their first and second class every day. So I share that with you just to build a little bit of empathy for the complexity of this. It's not an easy fix. It's not one that we're closing the door on in terms of like this is done, but I do want to be realistic around just the idea that this hasn't gotten better. And I look forward to providing more information for you all. I hope you can come back, and I will follow up with an email or a call to the people who were here tonight that signed up, and we'll make sure that's posted as well. And with all that said, that's all I have tonight. Hope you have a happy, happy New Year, and looking forward to a great 2024.
Bill's not here with us tonight, so I need someone to step up and make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Sharita, seconded by Tracy. Megan. All those in favor? That passes 7-0. Thank you all for attending and for your patience.